Hi, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, when or wherever you may be. Now, today, um, I want to have a little talk, nothing really major, about the succession of hegemons. First of all, let's talk about the hegemon. It's a Greek term, and it comes from uh, the inner. You have an assortment of entities, political entities, in this case the Greek cities, sorry, city-states, and perhaps some were stronger than others, and perhaps if they all worked together, they could defeat the Hegemon. But the Hegemon, he was the one that imposed the common rule, meaning the Hegemon would ensure that everyone got their biscuits and that no one would get out of line by trying to weaken another echelon. Okay? So it's as simple as this. You have to look at an echelon not as a supreme leader or an emperor, whatever you want to call it. You have to look at it as one of the regional powers that is much more influentially globally and that is able to maintain a degree of peace, a degree of law, and a degree of certainty for international relations, for political relations amongst entities, political entities, law, an ensurement that law will obey, international law will be obeyed, and also someone that will keep commerce flowing, wealth and prosperity for the people in the world. You might have understood what I'm going with this. You have currently an hegemon that is decaying, and I will bet on this, but that will inevitably fall. It will lose its power apparent. And I'm not saying that it will stop being important, United States, just for sheer size, population, resources. It can never be reduced to some kind of minor power, unless of course there are any factors that can lead to said country to disassemble itself, just like the USSR did to itself. But other than that, it will continue to be minorly relevant. It won't be, however, the hegemon. To me, and unfortunately I don't like it, China will be the next hegemon because they are the ones that are acting as hegemons and they are the ones that have enough power to do it. China also has a lot of internal problems. It might not seem like it, but they have a population decline issue with India just next door growing a lot in terms of population and other countries that are also growing in population. But this is one of the reasons why when people talk about China invading Russia or some shit like that, I always tell them why. Why would you bother to do that if you can just bribe a couple of governors in the Soviet, yes, Soviet, the Russian republics, and you can control the person that is in the Kremlin minorly, even without direct control, and continue to profit and have the trade and have the resources that you need. It's a waste of time. And here lies the difference of a good hegemon. The United States, since the day they invaded Iraq, the second invasion, because the first it was needed to ascertain power, meaning to force the regional hegemon Saddam Hussein to retreat to its borders. So it was needed. And I know what people are going to say, but look, I'm talking, so I'm not talking, I'm not telling you my opinions. I'm talking solely from a political and pragmatic point of view. And I'm just talking about the first military intervention. The second military intervention, in my opinion, useless. Absolutely useless. It only caused more issues. But by doing that, alongside with other things that the United States did, the end began in that moment. You cannot look at the end, so to speak, because there is no end. This is an organic process, just like human societies are an organic process too. Okay? But it began there. And it culminated when Obama, who was a decent president, was too weak or too mindless or too unable, or maybe he really didn't care to intervene when Russia occupied Crimea. Okay? This is the full process. What we are experiencing now with Donald J. Trump in the Oval Office, these are already the falling days. I will repeat this. This is already the descending process. This is an hegemon that is no longer able to exert its power in other ways because it is completely missing the plot. It's politically corrupt. It's infected with corruption that is associated with Israel, that is also corrupted. Okay, you can. I told you what I think about Gaza, and I also told you that I don't want the Israeli people to be assassinated or some shit like that, because it would be stupid. I will repeat again what I said so that this is absolutely clear. I don't agree with all that has happened since 1946, but I do know that we arrived at a threshold where you could have a two-state solution that will bring peace to that region. You would have a state for the Palestinians and a state for the Israelis. Okay? And if both parties, and in this case the one with the stronger axe is Israel, I'm sure that if the Palestinians were in their rule of power, if it was the reverse, we would be talking about the Palestinians doing that right now. Okay, don't try to mask what human nature is. We know perfectly well how people in that region act. And I'm not being racist by saying this, okay? I'm talking about evidence, I'm talking about the pragmatic view of things. When you have an overlord or some kind of regional power that is strong enough to impose peace, there is always peace. When there is no peace, they start to bicker amongst themselves. Why? Well, I don't know. Maybe because the population is very unlike what people in some countries in the West think. They think they are all the same, but they're not all the same. They are quite different. A Kurd is much different than an Iraqi. There are Kurds that are Iraqi, okay? A Kurd is also different from what a Turk is. A Turk is completely different from other ethnic groups in the region. Even their religions, some are Shiites, some are Sunni, okay? Some are Christian, which is something that people also forget. So there are a lot of variations in that, and maybe that's because that's the reason why there are issues there, okay? And that's normal, and that happens in other parts of the world. In Europe, you go to the Balkans, for example, or to France. In those two regions that are regions of transition, you will always find issues, no matter what the historic period is. The Roman Empire began when Caesar conquered Gaul, and it ended when Caesar conquered Gaul. These are historic evidences, okay? This is when empires stretch too much If he had stuck to the Mediterranean basin, the empire would probably have existed for much longer, and he would have he were surely but slowly but surely the populations around the Roman Empire would be completely influenced by the Roman Empire and would create similar states because the Roman state simply functioned. But again, the nature of the Roman Empire itself, it was fueled by slavery, and not they were already having that issue, okay, because the rich, this is a bit of a tangent, but let me just explain this. The rich overlords that resided in the large cities, they were taking the land of the peasants that supplied the legions and that created more population increase. Several Roman empires tried to quell this situation by adopting orphan children, by giving land to veterans, and doing all that. But it was worthless because those rich overlords, they would just have estates that were run by slaves, okay, that were worked by slaves, and all he had, the rich owner, the rich families, all they had to do was to just sit back in their comfortable villa in some kind of important Roman city and enjoy the dolce vita of fare niente, or of doing nothing. Okay? So, but the Roman Empire already had its issues, but when you look at pivotal points in which you see this was a bit too much, there it is. And then, and although the Romans did commit a bit of a genocide in Gaul, it's true, but the population was too high for them to be able to absorb them all. And even if they were Romanized, just like here in the Iberian Peninsula, they were not Romans. They thought in a different way. They had, even here in the Iberian Peninsula, they had cultural and ethnic, call it like this, connections to the Germanic tribes that laid outside of the Roman Empire, and of the Celtic population that laid outside of the empire in England, in Britain, okay? And also populations that lived in the eastern part of the empire that had connections to the people outside of the empire, okay? So this is very normal. But now, an hegemon is able to maintain its power when it's unanimous, okay? If the hegemon, for example, makes sure that everyone obeys international law, if the hegemon defends and protects it, then the other hegemons will be happy enough. They will think, well, this hegemon is doing a good job, money is flowing, our countries are prosper, our borders are safe, so let them be. It's as simple as this. Human nature is really very simplistic. You feed someone, you give him some entertainment, perhaps a partner, and that person is absolutely satisfied. Because we are basically animals. Even if we infuse ourselves with some kind of divine origin, and I'm not discussing if that is true or not. I'm not here to discuss religion. I'm here to discuss truth and pragmatism and what I can see and what I can hear. But the truth is, we are animals, just like right now. And I will be making a video or stream about it. I'm still working on it because the topic is very extensive about climate change, just like climate change can kill us off right now. But going back to the subject, because I want to talk specifically about this. The current hegemon that is falling is the United States. And what China is telling the United States is back down. Or meaning get away from the stage gracefully. We will even say there are two superpowers in the world, China and the USSR, USS, there I go, the USA. They will even go to that point. But the truth is, this will be exactly like in the dying days of the Soviet Union that I experienced as a kid and that I saw happening, in which you will see the power of the previous hegemon slowly erode. And what you have to understand this is, don't let yourself fall into the trap of the American YouTubers, because they are sinking, and there are a lot of people in Europe and also even in Asia, okay, even in China. There are a lot of people in that position that are seeing a world from the perspective of the hegemon that is floating away. All right? And you have to put yourself outside, and you have to look in, and you have to see the facts. And the facts are, let's go to the Strait of Hormuz. The USA cannot win that war. He can drop a nuke like some people have been talking about. Well, of course he can. He can do a lot of things. Like I commented in another video, I think it was all shorts. I also know that he cannot just for himself to decide to press the button. Okay, that's in the movies. When a president decides to use a nuclear weapon, there are a selection of military leaders that will approve it. And he cannot, so to speak, put just yes men in that particular group to decide whatever he wants. He can try, but I don't think he will be very successful in it. Also, I am perfectly sure that there are forces inside of the United States administration and government and all of that, CIA, FBI, okay, NSA, NSA. I am perfectly aware that there must be people inside of that group that are against, number one, to the infiltration of Israeli Mossad and of the Israeli government, that successfully infiltrated the government apparatus to make the United States fight a war that is giving them the distraction that they believe they need to obtain their military objectives in the Middle East. And right now, for example, Trump was saying that Netanyahu will stop the war, and then soon enough, Netanyahu and Ben Gvir and all of them, they started shouting, "No, we are not going to stop. We are going to conquer what we want to conquer," and they started to bomb Lebanon again. But let me tell you this: when the hegemon, United States, retreats from most of its control area, and they will. There are already countries in the Middle East region that they are taking over the bases that the United States is leaving abandoned because they cannot defend them, because the Iranians are bombing them. And if Iran does what they say they are going to do, which is go on the offensive, and I think they already did something to a ship. Israel, well, they will have to deal with the consequences of their actions. And if you think I have any schadenfreude in saying this, no, I don't. I think Israel could be a stabilizing force in that region. I know I'm going to be crucified in the comment section, but remember, I am being pragmatic, and I have also told you my opinion about what is really happening in Gaza, what it is, genocide, okay? So you think what you think. What I think, that a strong country in that region, in that particular place in the world, would stabilize it. Just like the influence of Turkey, just like a strong Syria, just like a more interventional Egypt, just like all of that. Okay, if you look, this is imagine hands pressing against each other. Okay, if you have people pushing each other, they are keeping themselves in balance. None will fall. If you have a bully pushing everyone and sending them to the ground, you have an issue. This is the exact same analogy that I would use in the Middle East. You must have a lot of people pushing each other, but keeping themselves in balance. Israel has broken the balance. If Israel is able to elect a decent government too, that won't change the opinion of around, I think it was 70% of the population, but it will contribute to change it, because also that population, if they listen to something like the United States will not be able to assist us here, so we need to cut our losses and try to make some kind of arrangement to keep ourselves safe. If those people are confronted with that simple truth, they will shut up, even the religious nuts. And you have to shut up those people. You have to control your country. You have to control the people that live in your country. That is the function of the state. The function of the state is not saying to everybody, you are all going to get whatever you want. No, the function of the state is to keep everyone normal and to keep things running. You see, I'm not a communist. You see, because I don't I believe that you need to give people a degree of freedom. I am for cutting obscene wealth, because we don't need that. People with obscene wealth are parasites on society. Simple as that. Millionaires, all of those people, they are parasites. We should limit wealth to a threshold. We can all vote on what that threshold would be, and we also have to limit the amount of wealth you are able to leave your descendants, your family, your heirs, whatever you want to call it. Okay, we need to address that, because this model of sinking is causing us much of the problems that we are now having with global warming. Okay, this is all related, this is all connected to human nature itself. But again, let's go back to the video, to the subject. We are witnessing all of this as we speak. And let's see what happens when Xi visits the United States for one day. And if he will go, do you think the United States stands a chance with Mr. Trump on the wheels of power? I told you again, I don't talk about the health problems that the man might be experiencing, because I don't think it's appropriate, okay? I don't mock the fact that perhaps he needs to use diapers or that he has health problems. None of that. I just analyze the actions. Nothing more. And I analyze the consequences of the actions. And this is how the democratic YouTubers should act. They should look at it and see the results. They waste too much time. They waste too much time in useless things. For example, every time Trump tweets and he says something offensive, no, you should look at that and say, President of the United States is offending people. This cannot be. He needs to be impeached, or he needs to be prosecuted, or he needs to be silenced because he cannot go around and saying these things about people. Or when he just recently, I think it was yesterday, acted like he acted with that female reporter just because she was a female. Where is the outcry? Well, there's some harsh words in a lot of news stations. In CNN, I think she is a reporter of CNN, but nothing more really. You tolerate this, and then if you listen to someone like me, an European, Johnny Foreigner, like the British say, you just think, what the hell does this guy know? He doesn't know anything. I know what I see, and I can tell you my perspective. My perspective in my culture is that a man that does that to a woman is a weak man. This is I often say this, and this is a very, well, you can call it rustic comment. Okay, so the ladies that are listening to me, don't take this by too hard. But my dad used to say that a man that beats or disrespects or coerces a woman to be by his side, that man does not deserve to have a woman by his side or to be called a man. And this is the difference interpretation of the so-called machismo of southern Europeans. It's very different here. Okay, it's even different in different parts of Spain, where they really have been having a lot of problems regarding to violence against women. But we also have to a degree. Okay, but for example, the United Kingdom has more issues like that than us. Just an example. Okay, so but going back to the subject, the United States is in a position of weakness. It has exhausted its military reserves. And yes, it's true that in a couple of months they can replenish them. But imagine, just imagine that Mr. Trump now he sent those letters to all the NATO countries, telling them you are align with our policies, or you won't. We will remove our assets from your countries. Okay. Well, most of the countries are telling him, well, okay, bye. You are an important part, but if you go, well, we will have to deal with it. You want to know why they are saying that? They're saying that because they know that's the way to the future. We know for a fact that in the future, in the next 5 years, and I'm being very optimistic, but in the next 5 years, you will have perhaps a quarter or even less of the American assets in Europe representing NATO. It will diminish over time. The first sign was Finland, Poland, Sweden, and Germany. And now Germany deploying military forces to the Baltic states that are not there to invade. Ironic, is it not? They are there to defend them. It's starting, okay, and you cannot stop this. And I keep again, I will go back to this, my friends, and Alistair, if you are listening to me, my friend, this is one of the reasons why I feel hesitant to participate in a stream with the guys from the Bin podcast, okay? Because they are excellent people, really. From what I saw from their work, they are genuine. They are intelligent. They are not liars or whatever. Okay, they are decent people. But the problem here is the different perspectives. I was just now here listening to another American YouTuber that I listen to sometimes, and I keep seeing the same base error. And that base error is to think Europe reacts in the same way as the United States. We don't. Or China. Chinese is even more different than that. They see, for example, internal problems in China that are motivated by climate change. Okay, they have been having floodings because of typhoons and all of that. They also been having population collapse in certain areas because the population decreased a lot, and the new generations don't want to fill themselves with kids. They want to do what the Westerners do, which is to have one or two kids and be done with it. Big families are not the norm anymore, so their population is going to plateau. It's as simple as this. In a couple of 20 or 30 years, you'll see the same thing happening to India, because this is normal. The plateau of populations is normal because we are intelligent predators. This is something that people also don't accept. They don't accept that our nature is we are animals. If you want to understand the behavior of a human being, and not, you will look at an animal. This is why sometimes it's very hard to predict human patterns of behavior, because we are humans and we are sentient, and we try to see logic where there is none. Even the ancients used to say, necessity knows no goal except to conquer. They also said another thing: the voice of a nation of people is very dangerous when it's spoken with anger. Okay, we have the knowledge and the wisdom to make a better world, but we choose to pollute and destroy our world for convenience. Is this logic to you, or is this animalistic behavior? And look, I'm not putting myself outside of this, okay? I am one of you. I'm a human being, not AI. Okay, I am a human being. And look, people talk about AI. If we ever develop intelligent AI, it will be as unreliable as us, because it will have been originated in our own patterns of behavior. Another thing that people also don't seem to get. And then they say, oh no, it will be very logic and it will be make the world a better place. Okay, most of us won't be alive to see it. I will probably not be around to see it. So anyone in the future that sees this video, sorry, come back to the past and tell me about it. All right, folks. I think it's just interesting for us to stop and meditate a bit about this and see what is behind all of this theater. He has just removed his carrier, the carrier that the United States had, as a sign of power. This is the most important part. In the sorry, in the Pacific Ocean, and he sent it to replace the other that he has in the Middle East. Do you understand the absurdity? And we all know what is happening to those sailors in the ships. You can all see it, it's public. And it's not lies, it's not AI, okay? It's multiple reports. They were also saying our bases in the Middle East, they are still, well, yes, we are still there. No, you had to remove all, you had to remove your soldiers from it. It might have a skeleton crew, but little more. And I wonder how long. Again, I wonder how long will you keep those bases? I have a feeling that after after all of this thing comes to a conclusion in the Straits of Hormuz, you will see in United States that will have no bases there. They will perhaps have one base or something like that in one of those countries, perhaps in Saudi Arabia or something like that, and Israel. Because by tricking the United States into this war, and that's not tricking is a harsh word because they were not tricked, but by luring the United States into this war for their own purposes, for their own objectives, they have also sealed their destiny with the decaying hegemon. The current hegemon, which is already China, is supporting Iran. And I'm saying this again from a pure pragmatic and political point of view. This is what I'm telling you. Purely political. I don't like it. I know what China is. China is no heaven. China is not what is portrayed by a lot of YouTubers and TikTokers and all of that shit. China is a dictatorship. Plain and simple. That allows a degree of freedom to its citizens, but that does not allow the same type of freedom that we are used to in the West. Think about it. And I didn't remove the glasses to look all dramatic, okay? I removed them because I needed to. What I want you to remove from this video is for us to see how the United States is following a similar path to what happened in the USSR. Human behavior. Predictable. Now, the United States can remain an important actor if, for example, with the midterms and all of this, they are able to elect a Democrat to the power, they are able to clear some of the ill will with their allies, but we won't trust them because we know that you elect a Democrat now. In less than a decade, I think it's 4 or 5 years, the president's term. Okay, you can elect another lunatic, or this Democrat can go berserk again. So we have no way to trust you. We can normalize relations. Okay, for example, someone that tells Canada, "Look, sorry for this shit. Let's just normalize our commercial relationships. Let's end this tariff crap. Let's take care of business." That would say to China the same thing. Look, let's stop this. Let's continue this. But you won't be able to send US aid in the same way that you did, for example, to Africa, because we will find other actors, among them China, have already taken your place. You won't be able to use Europe as the supplier of all the components that you need to sustain your military complex, industrial complex. The same Europe that will not be dependent on your weapons because you have made sure that we need to develop ourselves our own means. Or do you think what? We are going to shut down factories? We are going to stop producing, I don't know, Raphaels and all of that, okay? Do you think that will happen? No. No. That part is lost. You will be lucky to keep the UN in New York. You will be lucky to maintain your position in the Security Council, for example, that will probably change a lot because other countries will want, and other groups, other people, let's call it like this, other countries will want to participate in it. You won't be able to tell someone to shut up. You will have to speak with your allies. Will you support me when I say this? Will you not? And because before you would use law and you would use international order, that promise of the order from after World War II, and your allies, they would go along with you. Because if you were going according to the common law that maintain peace, even if it sometimes was very how do you say, hypocrite of you, because we all know what you did in South America, what you tried to do in Cuba, because in those times you could do that, but now, no. You will have to get your allies to agree with you, because this way, a lot of hegemons, regional hegemons, the big hegemon, whoever it is, or maybe there isn't anyone. Look, I'm talking about China, but maybe China doesn't want that role. Maybe China just wants to trade. Maybe China just wants to have you fight your differences amongst yourselves and not intervene. Have you thought about that? No, because you are American and you think in that way. I and other people, we try to put ourselves in the shoes of the others. And people talk about Taiwan. China wants to take over Taiwan, yes, but they would much prefer to do it peacefully. That is why China is trying to cooperate with South Korea, with North Korea, of course, with Japan, because they want peace in their backyard, and that is their backyard. And you won't be allowed to play unless you play according to their rules. That is why Japan and South Korea are creating bonds to another regional hegemon, which is Europe. South Korea, I told you this, they have the plans, the blueprints, and all that. I think they already started to build ammunition factories, I think in the in Czechia, in East Europe, in Central Europe, sorry. Japan is doing the same. Just recently, they were doing military drills with Germany. And they will do this. They will continue to do this, just like Canada is mediating everyone. Because if you have connections, you won't have war. People always say, oh, they want war because they will make money. No. The United States has been profiting a lot from wars, but there are other countries that prefer to do things in another way. But again, what do I know? Well, folks, I would like to thank you very much for coming here, listening to me, listening to my rants. I hope this at least has given you something to think. And well, I hope to catch you all in the next one. Please stay safe and stay out of the bloody heat.